it's Lawrence Tam here. I'm excited to share with you this video. I was talking to a client of mine the other day actually, and we're talking about why do chiropractors seem to get stuck around the 100 to 120 patient range per week. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about why that may be the case and what are some of the things you can do about it. Because essentially these elements of how you can move along from 0 to 100 to 150 and beyond is the same strategies that will help you get past those things, because you get past those levels. And the reason why you're stuck in those levels is because there was certain elements that what you did here is not the same thing you need to do here. So let's get on to with this video. All right, well, welcome back. So the main question is why do chiropractors consistently kind of get stuck around the 100 to 120 patient week per week range? There's a lot of reasons for it, because a lot of times what we forget is why we get them, how we actually move along the scale. So most people have this idea that the practice kind of moves in the scale of like it's going to a linear scale. It goes from 0 to wherever you need to go. So let's just start with the fundamental. Now I want to be very, very clear here. Okay, I want to be very clear here. The first thing I want you to understand is that these numbers I'm putting out there, it doesn't necessarily mean that's these are my numbers I'm using for context. It doesn't necessarily mean that you actually have to go for after these goals, okay? I'm not suggesting that these are the standards or whatever. I'm just using this so that you understand. I can use dollar figures there, but sometimes dollar figures don't translate as well. So I'm gonna just use the numbers of using numbers per patients per week as the standard here to kind of standardize the conversation. So I hope that makes sense. So let's kind of get started here when we kind of go, all right, well, if we're trying to get from 0, there's 3 specific spots that I find that are sort of like the pinnacles that we have to overcome as a chiropractor throughout a cure. One is getting past 100 patients a week. The second one is about 150-ish around there. And the next one is, going about 200 plus, right? Sorry, I just got to get past that. 200 plus. So that's the idea. So, but why do most people, right? Most of the chiropractors seem to kind of fall within this range right around here, right? And it makes sense. But I was having a discussion with my client yesterday, and here's my rationale for this. The thing is that what a chiropractor needs to do to get to 100 patients a week. You remember, like that's what I call. Let's just kind of name this, right? So I call this the startup practice, and the startup practice is an area where we kind of have to really try to get going. This is when you're first couple years out. You're really trying to get understanding of the techniques and the tacticals, things to kind of help you serve patients better. And that is the startup phase, right? And we all go through that phase. I've gone through that phase. We all go through it. It's just how long you spend there. That's really the question here. But the reality is what I wanted to kind of show you understand is that there's different phases here. It's the startup phase, then you kind of move into what I call the plateau practice. And the reason why I call it plateau practice is because this is where a lot of practices I find sort of get stuck here. You sort of get stuck into this range where you just kind of can't move past this. And I want to help you understand why that is and what to do about that. And then my goal to help most of the chiropractors and the clients I have is to help them to get to this level, which is profit practice. Okay, and like I said before at the beginning of the video, obviously it depends on what your profit is and what you're trying to achieve, but I call it profit practice. And beyond that, which is beyond that is usually what we call freedom practice. And I'll save another video explaining what that is. But so we're going from startup practice to plateau practice to profit practice to freedom practice. That's the idea of what we want to kind of scale towards. But the question is, why do we get stuck on the plateau practice? Well, the reason why is one is that people think that there's a linear scale here to kind of grow your practice. But the reality is it's not. It's not a linear scale. If anything, your practice kind of grows in a more of a stair-step model, right? You kind of move up like this. It goes up and down, and there's periods of time where it's just like there's a period of plateauing. Like there's a period of where you have to adjust your practice to handle that volume and do the right things, and you move it to the next level. So that's theory number 1 that you need to consider. The other thing you need to consider too as well is that the first phase from 0 to 100, what you have to do is in the first phase, it's purely what I call sprinting, right? You got to run as fast as you possibly can, do everything. You basically just shotgun approach. You got to do everything. You got to get a whole bunch of new patients. Should be your main driver. Really got to focus in on your conversions and so on and so forth. So this is what we call the sprint phase, right? And the sprint phase is really, really important, because the sprint phase is about, you got to really get to 100 as quickly as possible when you first start out. That's my recommendation, okay? But why do people get stuck right here, right? Well, we all know, the other thing that you will also learn throughout your, your career, is that what we have to do is about systems, right? We need to learn about systems. We got to make sure our systems are correct. And there are a ton of practice management companies that teach you about how and why systems are so important in your life. Well, yes, they are. I do agree that systems are important. But here's the challenge. Is that when you get to past the 100 mark, what intendedly happens is that people go, well, I need to have better systems. I need a practice manual. I need to do these marketing better, da, 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 da. The problem with this is that you get caught up, right? And what I mean by that is you sort of get stuck in this region of thinking, I need to do systems, but I also need to work hard. And the problem is that people get stuck is that they get confused of what they actually need to get out of a plateau practice. How do you get out from here to move on to the profit practice? And what I'm saying to you is that, well, one, we both know that sprinting harder, working harder isn't going to get you there, right? If you are trying to get all these new patients coming in, just say you get, you go, oh, if I just saw 10 new patients a week, I'll be amazing, past 100. Okay, great. Well, to get to 200, does it mean I have to see 20 new patients a week? Well, that's not necessarily true, right? That working harder isn't the right call here. So what you have to transition here is you got to learn to work smarter. And the problem is that, I will say this, at 150 and above, that's when systems become important to you. Systems become a really, really important things when it comes to leveraging the 1%ers, what I call the 1%ers, because those 1%ers is what going to change your practice to get beyond the 200 plus, right? Without good systems, without a good team, without good vision, good values, all of those things, you will not get past the 200, right? It will be hard work all the way, and it'll be a push, and I would not want that for anybody. But the thing is that the gap between 100, and this is what we're talking about right here, this gap between 100 to 150, right? This gap right here, sort of kind of muck this whole graph here, but between that part, what you got to consider is actually, the reason why people get stuck is because they switch from sprint to the systems. And that's not going to help you get there. What you really need is a blend of both worlds. What you need is you need to still freaking work hard, but you also got to add elements of your systems in there too. Because if you don't do both, you're not going to move past this level. You're going to literally just stay there. You're going to do it. You're going to sprint enough, but not enough because you're tired and you can't get past the 150. But you don't have enough systems to either drag you there. So what you got to do, which is hard work, which is this blend of doing sprinting and adding systems into your play. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting stuck. And this is the reason why I believe that most people are sort of getting stuck in this realm, in this sort of middle ground, is because they're not doing the right things. They're doing things, but they're working hard. Of course, I'm not saying that they're not working hard. Well, what they're doing is that they're working hard, but not working smart. And when you're not working smart, you can't get to that next level, and you get stuck in this plateau, and you just basically flatline. And it's frustrating as anything, because you feel like you can be more, you want to do more, but you can't. And that is that ability to know exactly what you need to do in your circumstances, to know what systems do I need to work on, what sprint do I need to work on to get me to that next level. Well, that's different for everybody. Like if there was one magical bullet to solve all practice problems that people that are stuck, then we would all do it and everybody would be successful. But there isn't one. Why? It's because we're all different. We have different practices. We have different styles. We also have different, we have different strengths and weaknesses. So therefore, the goal here isn't to just follow a system or follow a particular person or practice manager. It's about finding out the right tools, the right strategy that works for us, for you specifically in your practice, and knowing how to execute that properly. But first of all, you need to know where you're going, why you want it, and then decide what strategy do you going to deploy, and then it's about execution. It's not about just executing and working hard, because executing hard work isn't necessarily going to get you to where you want to go. So I hope that was clear. I hope this has been helpful to kind of help you think about why people get stuck and how to move on to get to a profit practice. If you're interested in learning how to get more profit practice, have a conversation with me. Let's go to joinnitro.com and let's have a chat, and let me see if I can help you get to your profit practice. practice.
It's all well and good to have a successful practice, but in the grand scheme of things, I want to make an impact.
The biggest thing that it's enabled me to do is to develop better relationships with people.
The reason I joined was because I was feeling a bit isolated in practice.
Now I feel like I have a tribe.
Florence definitely provides a really good insight from outside of my square.
You really start to find your true identity. When you're part of a group that supports you, which is what I feel Nitro does, you get some quality results.
I was caught up in the hustle side of chiropractic, so now having that freedom, still being just as busy and even more successful.
I think that we all elevate and rise together.
It really allows me to face my own fears and blockages. It's about being with like-minded people, but being about people who want the same thing, which is like this willingness to support each other and hold each other accountable at the same time.
We went from seeing an average of 140, 150 people to seeing now 250 people.
I do have the confidence to, have that voice and make those changes, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that without Nitro.
It's not trying to create me to be something else, it's trying to create me to be the best version of me.